Hey, Deep Divers, welcome back to another episode of the Deep Dive with Ian K. In tonight's episode, we will be discussing self-love. Join Esther and I as we share our self-love journeys with you, which are journeys that we're still working on every single day. So get comfortable, grab your favorite drink, and let's get started. Practicing self-love is not an easy task. A lot of people struggle with how to love themselves or knowing where to start. It requires a lot of intentional work and self-reflection. You have to ask yourself hard questions, practice deep introspection, and be brutally honest with yourself. By digging deeper, you will discover who you are, what you enjoy, and what it means to fully and truly love yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that journey, as you said, is asking yourself those hard questions. So with that, first question for today is, what does self-love mean? Carrie?
So I guess to me, self-love just means loving yourself. I know that sounds like real duh, but yeah, just like really loving yourself, really being intentional about like getting to know who you are in your quiet space, as in like when you're not around other people and you're not like busy doing other things. Like, what does it mean to spend time with yourself, get to know yourself, to truly love yourself, love everything about yourself, love your looks, love your flaws, love your mental state. Like, that's a really big thing. The things you tell yourself, like being able to love that too and know that you're a work in progress. I think like self-love is the ability to have grace with yourself, which is
Mm,
really big for me, especially something I'm really working on,
yeah.
because it's so easy to beat yourself up, and it's so easy for me to beat myself up and to regret things and feel like shoulda, woulda, coulda. But when you're practicing self-love, it really means that you have enough grace to know that I did something wrong or this wasn't right, but I forgive myself to make better choices moving forward. So I just think it's an ongoing process, but a lot of it is just really being,
Yeah.
loving yourself. Yeah, yeah.
For me, self-love means yeah, accepting yourself for who you truly are. Like you said, like when there's no one around and it's just you and your four walls and you're in a quiet space and there's like no TV on, no music, just you and your thoughts. It's accepting the real raw version of yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's loving yourself and the body that you're in and the skin that you're in, and then like from the roots that the hair that grows at your roots down to your toes. It's just embracing all parts of what makes you you and really 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 accepting like yourself for who you
Yeah.
are. And so to me that's what it means. It's just like having like a deep respect and love for yourself and being able to look at yourself in the mirror and not cringe at what looks back at you.
Yeah, I also thought about something that we talked about a little bit in the last episode about love being unconditional. And I feel like with self love, it means that no matter the conditions you're in, you love
Yeah.
yourself. Like, you don't put conditions to loving who you are. You just love yourself no matter what the circumstances. Cause I find that, it's easy to love myself when things are going well. Like, it's easy to love myself when I am like, living my best life and like, all of this stuff. But when things aren't going well and the conditions are a little different, like, do you still have that same love and appreciation for all parts of you, like you just mentioned, Esther? So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I know that I think it was Pastor Todd, but don't quote me because I watch like three different pastors, so I could be mixing any of them up really, but I believe it was Pastor Todd that said that and for those of you who don't know, it's Pastor Michael Todd from Transformation Church. But they basically was preaching about how we are all uniquely made in God's image. And when you talk negatively against yourself, you are talking negatively against God. And that like mentally was just like, whoa, you just said a little, but you said a lot, because it's true. Like if I truly believe, which I do, that God made me uniquely in his image and that I am his child and that he purposely crafted me to be who I am, then I have to do the work to love myself. Then I have to love myself because by loving me, I love him. And so I think all of that with what you said all encompasses that unconditional love, because the unconditional love of self is the unconditional love of God.
That is very true. And like, honestly, that kind of segues a little bit into one of our questions that we have for tonight.
Yeah.
Do you believe that you have self-love?
Yes, I do. And the reason why I do is because I've been super purposeful of getting to this point where I do love myself for who I am. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I just accept me for who I am because of what I just said. Like, I just think that I realized that um to truly, like, I was made and put in this earth. Like, I didn't, I didn't pick to be born, but I was. And I was made for a unique reason, and I was made to look like I do, and I was born in this skin. And for me, I had to really be purposeful and intentional about doing the work to love myself. So at this point in time, I would say, yes, I do have self-love because I worked really hard to get
Yep.
there and I'm proud of it. You?
That's valid. I would say yes, I do. I agree with you. Like, it takes a lot of work. I mean, we're gonna get into that a little more in a few about just like what it took to get to this place, but it took a lot of work, a lot of intentionality, a lot of me telling myself that I was something that I didn't believe at the time. It was a lot, but I will say to a degree, yes, I do love myself. I love everything about Kersha, like everything. I'm weird. I'm quirky. I'm funny. I love everything about myself. There are things and parts of me that I'm still working on loving, and that get the best of me. And it's more of like my mental state sometimes. But as far as like, you know, being alone, I'm okay with being alone. At one point, I need to be with everybody and their mama, but I'm okay with being by myself, having
That's growth.
I've taken myself out on dates where it was just me going to the movies or me going to dinner, just me, myself, and I. And I feel like that is such a big step for me, like thinking about where I was before. So I do believe I'm at a place where I do love myself. I do, accept myself flaws and all. There are things that do pop up here and there. And that's why we say the journey of self-love is ongoing, because there's things you learn about yourself in this journey that you don't immediately like. So there's things I've learned on my journey that I'm like, oh, I do that. Or like, dang, I don't like that I'm this kind of person. Or I don't like that I think this way. But again, it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's not where you end. Like, it's an ongoing thing. So at this present time, yes, I'll very much say that I love myself.
Yeah, sure. And then you just hit on something too, like the fact that it really needs to be highlighted that it is a journey. Like right now in this moment, yeah, you feel this way, but like next week you might have a hard day, or something else might happen that may make it harder to get to that point. Like I know for me, I had to relearn how to love myself after my body changed, because I gained weight and I was always a skinny mini, little walking stick. Yeah, and then as I became more curvaceous and stuff like that, I had to relearn how to love myself and the body that I was in and accept me at the weight that I was at. And so it's like you never know what can happen to your body or to yourself in your journey. So like you don't just kind of like reach this point and you're like, oh, I'm there and I'm good. Like you have to keep it going every single day, and especially during the hard times where things are not going the way you may want to, you have to keep reminding yourself of that self-love. So,
that's such a good point, because I'm thinking too about how do we get here? Like, how do you get to a place that you're like, I love myself, or I'm okay with accepting my flaws, or there's been a change in my body or change in my situation, but I'm still loving myself or working through it to love myself through it. So like, I ask you, Esther, how did you get to where you are in loving yourself?
I think that like I don't think I had a choice. Like I don't think mentally I had a choice not to love myself, because I feel like if I didn't love myself, I don't know if I could be here today and be strong and hold myself up, because one of the things I've been practicing over the past couple of years is being vulnerable. So I'm gonna get in my little vulnerable box, so bear with me. And if I laugh, it's not because this is funny. It's just because this is so hard for me. So I'm the person who laughs at uncomfortable and inappropriate times. So
you and me both.
But yeah, like I come from critical parents. Like they're very critical, and I don't even think sometimes they realize like just the impact of their words. But like growing up, it was just like nothing I did till this day, actually. Nothing I do or did is ever good enough. Everything was just always like something to pick at and criticize. And it was just the same thing. Like, it was like, I mean, I was saying earlier that, I was a skinny mini, but that was criticized. It was like, oh, you're too skinny and you don't have the meat on your bones. And I remember my mom used to make me drink Ensure
Oh
so I
Lord.
could gain weight.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was like, okay, so that was like the box I was in. And then when I started gaining weight, it was criticized about me gaining weight and then having to hear every moment about my body and being like a body shame essentially. And so for me, I think like because of like my home environment and just how um my parents are, like, I think it's just, I don't know if it's a West Indian thing or what, but like I had to build myself up because there was nobody else there to do it. And so I remember at 11 years old having this really like hard conversation with myself, like literally crying and breaking down, like, yo, I can't keep doing this. Like, everything I do is picked apart. I'm never good enough. I'm never enough. Like, everything I do say is criticized. I'm tired. Like, I just can't do it anymore. And then I made like, I don't know what came over me. It has to be God himself, because I just really remember saying to myself, like, no more. You're gonna start living for you. You're gonna start living for you, and you're gonna pursue these things from you, and you're gonna pursue your own happiness, because you can't please the unpleasable.
Mm, that's it right there.
And that's when my self-love journey started. Like, literally, it was like, hey, you don't like what I'm wearing? Oh well. You don't like my hair? You don't like this? Oh, that's fine. I love it because I love me. And really giving myself that pep talk. I used to look at myself in the mirror and tell myself every day, you're beautiful. Like, essentially giving myself like that help talk. You is smart. You is important.
You is kind. You is smart. You is important.
And then one day I just believed that it was no longer like something I had to tell myself. It was like, nah, I believe it. I'm going to walk in it. I'm going to own it. And I'm going to embrace me for me, because at the end of the day, I was put on this earth for a reason. And if nobody else on this earth loves me, I'm going to sure as hell love me.
Yes, yes, yes. That's it right there. If nobody else loves you, you have to love you. You're sure as hell gonna love you. That's where it is right there. I just want to say first, thank you for sharing that. Like, that takes a lot of vulnerability, which is something you just said you working on. So like, look at you. But yes, right? No, but for real, like, I think that's dope. Like, especially at the young age of 11, like, to say like you've gotten to a place of no more. Like, my story's a little different. Like, it took me beyond 11. I was in college. But the point is, you got there, and that's all that matters, whether it's 11, whether it's 24, whether it's 34, like whatever. Like, the goal is to get to that place of self-love, or at least close enough. So thank you for sharing that.
No, yeah, absolutely. I guess for you, like, do you believe that you are worthy of good things like love and happiness? Like, as when you are going through your self-love journey, especially for college, like, is that how you got to that point where you were like, no, I do deserve all the good things? Or like, I don't know. I guess my question is like, what was the thing that was like, yo, I'm at the place where I love Carisha?
Well, my journey, for me, I feel like it's such a long journey. Like, it, but anyway, I'm sure everybody's is a long journey. It's not, again, it's not a destination, right? So my journey to self-love began my the summer of my junior year, as in like I'm going into my junior year of college.
Yeah, yeah. I remember.
So the thing is, I really had dealt with issues of insecurity, more of the like visible insecurity. I struggled with my weight. I struggled with my hair. I struggled with um being appreciated and loved by guys, like being that cute girl that gets all the boyfriends and stuff. I struggled with all of that. I didn't really like me. I didn't think I was cute. I didn't think I was pretty. I didn't think I was skinny enough. Unfortunately, being a part of a Caribbean home, every time you come to Trinidad or where you go, but for me it was Trinidad over the summers, it's like, oh, where you getting fat going? Like, it's always something. Or like, you're so fat, I can't pinch you. It's like, oh, okay, thanks. But I don't know if that was a compliment, but essentially that was their way of saying like, you're getting big. Like, thank you very much. But anyway, so I just struggled with a lot of how I saw beauty in myself because I was thick, and I'm still thick, but I'm beautifully thick. Like I admire my thickness. Anyway, so junior year, that's ending sophomore year of college, going into the summer of my junior year of college. That is when me and my friend Linda at the time from church, she was like, yeah, we got to lose weight, we got to do this. And she was way smaller than me, but she still was dedicated to my weight loss. So we went to the gym, signed up for a membership. We would go to the gym every day. Then she would come to my house. We would cook together, like whatever. And there were times where like, although we were working out, like I wasn't really seeing the results that I wanted to see. And I just hated the fact that like, what's the point in this? Like, I'm still big. Nobody likes me. I'm still ugly. And this was actually also the time of the start of my my natural hair journey. So I cut my permed hair, and what I had left was my shorter hair. Um, and at that time, it wasn't just shrinkage, like it was short. It wasn't like I pull it like how I do now and it's like, whoo. No, it was like straight up like this, but there was no pulling. So it was that. I didn't like my hair. I didn't like my weight, all these things like that. Like it really, like I wasn't proud of who I was at the time. Like I got called a jelly donut when I was young. Yes, this boy that I know very
Did you
well.
punch him?
No. Anyway, so fast forward, I made the decision, like Esther did, that I had to love myself, and like it was hard. And how I started was listening over and over and over and over to Kurt Franklin's Imagine Me. Because in that song, he's just basically saying, like, I want to imagine me the way that you, God, see me.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is like when it comes to self-love, I don't know, again, like our population of listeners or if anyone's a believer out there, but for me, I had to plug into God to get my self-love. I had to plug into God in that sense, because I was like, I need to imagine me the way you see me, because you clearly think I'm the bomb.com, but I don't think that. So what we gonna do? Like, it's clear my source of love clearly comes from me knowing you and loving you and stuff like that. So I listened to that song like every day on repeat 24/7. And that was like the beginning of my transformation. I was that girl in junior, senior year of college, stickies up on the wall, like, you are enough, you are beautiful, you are this. It's
That
literally
was
like,
my room.
right, that was me too. I literally did the whole fake it till you make it until I didn't have to fake it anymore. Like, it came a point where I was like, no, you are beautiful. And the thing is, I had to challenge myself to go against myself. Like, I had to push myself out of my comfort zone. Like, no, you're not wearing makeup today. No, you're not doing your eyebrows. No, you're not braiding your hair. No, you're not going to, do a twist out today. You're going to rock that short hair, shrunken. You're going to kill it. Like, I started to get compliments on the way I showed up in the world. I was just really happy to see that like people took to me in a way that was like not what I thought was my norm. But basically, to sum this all up, my journey really just started with, like you said, looking in the mirror, faking it till you make it, ingesting all things that make you beautiful, whether that's listening to a song like I did, or whether that's posting something all over your room that every time you wake up, you see the affirmation. That's what I needed. And eventually I got there.
So I guess the next piece is you speak when you feel that you are not getting what you deserve. And that's like a hard one, because I think for me, like I said, my biggest criticizers and critiques have been my parents. And so it's always been a struggle for me. Because growing up in a Haitian household is like questioning your parents in any capacity is disrespectful. Like literally any emotion you have that's not happiness is somehow related back to you being disrespectful, ungrateful. It's just something negative. So it's like, how do I stand up for myself, right? How do I fight for what I deserve without quote unquote being disrespectful? And like one of the things I've learned within the last like 2-3 years is how to create boundaries, even with my parents. I mean, I'll be honest, like my mom, it was like 2017, 2018. It's a little fuzzy with time, but one of those years, I had gone over to her house and she made some just really unpleasant and unnecessary comments to me about my body and how I was dressed and just criticizing like me from head to toe. And this was before hello. Like, I just walked in. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I did not drive an hour plus to be for this. Like, I really didn't. And I remember I called her up a couple days later, and I was like, hey, you know, in a really calm manner, like, yo, that hurt my feelings. That was disrespect. Like, I just felt disrespected. I just don't think like I'm an adult. Like, you don't have to talk to me like that. If you don't like my lipstick, how I dress, how I dye my hair, whatever it is, that's fine. But you don't need to speak on it. I am an adult. Like, I'm gonna do me, and you have to just respect that.
Right, right.
And she like her response was to like hang up the phone on me. Now normally like we fall into this pattern where I'll be honest, my parents suck at apologizing. I don't even think they know the word sorry. Like, it's like a strange word to them. So normally what would happen is that my mom would say something, then I would go and apologize to her for her hurting me, which is weird, but you know, that's the dynamic. This time I was like, no, I'm actually not gonna do that because it doesn't serve me. The person who's hurting, the person who
Mm-hmm.
has to deal with these comments that comes from the person who birthed you is me. I'm the one who has to look at my first example of womanhood having to constantly berate and attack me for being myself. I'm not a kid anymore. This is not gonna happen. So her and I did not talk for 2 months. Of course I got the from my family members, you only have one mother and you need, I was like, no, because I'm like, at the end of the day, she doesn't have to agree with nothing else I do, but the very least you will respect me.
Right.
Because I deserve that. And that's one of the ways I've learned to practice self-love for myself is not only respecting myself, but setting up boundaries so that others have to respect me.
Yeah.
Because getting disrespecting yourself is a form of not loving yourself. Allowing others to disrespect you is a form of this, like, not practicing self-love. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just loving the physical pieces, it's also loving and valuing yourself as an individual. And so for me, it's been that. And yeah, we didn't talk for those 2 months, and I know it hurt her. At the same time, it was really important for me to set those boundaries. And I'll tell you now what, even though my mom never apologized, she doesn't say any comments about what I wear and anymore. Like, she doesn't have anything to say about it. And if she does, because she's, you know, she's had moments where of course she'll slip up, I don't entertain it and I don't give power to it, because one of the things I've also had to do in setting up the boundaries is also the boundaries of what I will and will not allow to take me out of my spirit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so for me, setting up those boundaries with individuals has been really, 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 really critical.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a good point that you mentioned about boundaries and self love and how you show yourself love when you create those boundaries and you don't allow anyone to disrespect you. And, like, you know, I feel like for me, that's, I wouldn't say disrespect is the word to use here for me. However, there's still a boundary that needs to be created when it comes to not saying no, or when it comes to feeling guilty about putting, you know, my own needs first, or when it comes to how often I apologize when it's not even my fault for real. So, or how often I take people's problems on as my own, because I'm really big at that. The empath in me. But anyway, so, like, I feel like it's very important to also just mention that, like, yes, the disrespect is also very much a part of self-love. Like, how much, not how much, you should never allow disrespect ever. So it's not a matter of how much. It should never happen. But with that, you also thinking about, like, okay, like, how often do I put myself on the line for other people? Like, and is that showing me myself self-love? And that is something I struggle with because I care so much about people and what they think, and that's something I'm working on. But what I will say is that, like, you know, again, with this ongoing journey, just knowing that, like, not everyone can you say yes to. Like, sometimes you have to say no and not care about what that does for the other person. Like, I was watching a little clip of Ty Tribbett and his wife that Esther sent to me, and, like, she basically was saying that, like, she was suffering with a lot of anxiety and things like that. And the problem is that when she went to God in prayer, God had told her that she's trying to play God for other people. And I think the important thing about a boundary, or, like, you know, when it comes to self-love is like, I can't play God for people. I've been playing God for people for so long. I've been supporting people financially and otherwise in ways that I should not have to do that. And like, yes, there's sometimes where you know, support other people and things like that, but there's also a heaviness and a load when you overdo it. And like at one point in my life, and you know, I've overdone it, and like to the point of like, now I feel anxious, now I'm financially worried, now I'm like, you know, freaking out or whatever, and that doesn't help with my peace, and in turn doesn't help with my self-love. So I need to be able to like say no to things that like feel so easy to
Serve you, yeah.
yeah, that serve me.
So the piece you said about not feeling guilty about putting yourself first is really hard for a lot of people to do, but it is essential for practicing self-love. Like it basically goes back to, you know, the analogy we hear all the time about, you know, when you're in the plane, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you can put it on others. And it's because like you really cannot help anyone else until you help yourself first. You can't love another person truly until you love yourself first. And so it's like, how are you supposed to give what you don't have, right? And so I think that piece is really important. And it, you know, in a certain way, yeah, people are like, it's selfish, but you do have to be a little bit selfish. Now, there's different forms of selfishness, but the selfishness of putting yourself as a priority is nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think about like from my, you know, once again, using myself as an example, like in, you know, Caribbean culture, actually Africans too, actually just a lot of immigrant cultures really, because this is universal. Like they only like recognize like 4 career paths: lawyer, doctor, engineer, disappointment. So I fall in the 4th category of disappointment because I didn't pursue any of that. Until this day, I have a master's degree, got my undergrad, bachelor's degree, graduated high school, did all of that. I still get hell that I didn't go to choose the medical route and become a nurse or a doctor. And this is my thing, is that like, because I have family members who, to appease and please their parents, have pursued the medical route. I cannot sacrifice my happiness for somebody else in that way. I am sorry, that does not sit well with my spirit. And one of the ways, once again, creating the boundaries of practicing self-love was that I had to put myself as a priority and really asking myself, what makes me truly happy? I don't like going to the doctor, so why would I want to work in an office? Absolutely not. So for me, it was really like asking myself those hard questions, like what makes me happy, what brings me joy. None of them fall within those other 3 career tracks. So are my parents not pleased with my career path? Absolutely. Do I care at this point in my life? Absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to get up. I'm the one who has to go into the field. I'm the one who has to do the work. And I'm the one who has to live with the decisions that I make. And truly, for me, one of the ways I've been practicing self-love, and I have to keep reminding myself of this every single day, is that I cannot sacrifice my genuine happiness in this one life I have to make other people a priority above me.
Yeah.
If that's selfish, then that's a selfishness I'm okay with living with. Like,
yeah. I'm glad you said that. Like, I'm thinking about how important it is to value yourself and your happiness and your opinions over valuing others. And like, I'm thinking about like, not just like you spoke a lot about parents, like your parents and things like that, but like, I think also in all aspects, like in your friendships, in your relationships, like in your partnerships at work, like whatever it is, like, you know, it's very important to like really value yourself enough to trust yourself and to trust your own opinions and to trust that you really do, you know what's best for yourself, even if, you know, it may not feel like it. Like, I know something that I am really big on in my life is going to others for advice and getting opinions. And like, you know, something that I've learned is like 99.9% of the answers that you need are within you, or that you already know the answers to. And like a part of self-love is valuing your own opinion, valuing your own like gut and what you believe to be true about your life. Sometimes you do need advice. Sometimes you do need to hear from someone else some next steps or whatever. But like, there's also just that you also need to know that like you have the answers, and trusting yourself enough that like if you have practiced so much self-love, if you have practiced what it means to really value your happiness and your opinions, then you also have to be able to value your own advice. And like that doesn't mean that you can't get help from anyone else, but like, you know, still like value your own opinion or your own feeling about yourself over others. And like, let's say you do, you know, feel confident about something and it doesn't go well, like at least you trusted yourself. That's half the battle. That's phenomenal. Like the fact that, you know, you were able to say like, no, this stops here, or the fact that you're able to be like, I'm going to follow my own path and trust myself, like that is like half the battle right there. Like even if it doesn't go in your favor, like the fact that you trusted your gut and
Yeah.
like leaned onto your own opinions over the opinions of what other people were saying, like that alone is growth. And like,
Yeah.
you know, you learn for the next time like what decisions you need to, especially if the decision that you need to make is similar, you learn for the next time what you need to do.
I
You
would
know,
rather fall because of like my own trials and tribulations than to fall because I didn't trust and have confidence in myself and
mhm.
just followed a path that somebody else laid for me.
You know, that comes with self-love too, because you have to be willing to have grace with yourself when you make the decision to do what you do and you fall, right? Not nobody told you, oh, go jump off that cliff, or go
Yeah.
get that job, or go date that guy. You did that. So when it doesn't work out, like a part of self-love is having grace. Grace is so big, and it's so big for me to know that you are human. Like, did you die though? No, you didn't. So calm down, forgive yourself, and move on. Like, it is completely okay to
Take
make,
the lessons from the
yeah,
situation.
take the lessons and move forward. Like, don't beat yourself up. Like, loving yourself is understanding that you are human and you get to make mistakes as a human. Like, you just take the lessons and you move forward. So I think that kind of like segues a little bit into like the how, right? Like, so how
Yeah.
do you, how does it work moving forward to love yourself and to like really like dive in? Like, what are like the top things that's there that you would, you know, tell people who are listening, like how you love yourself or how to move forward in that journey to keep that up? Because again, it's not a destination, it is a journey.
I think the first step is you have to heal. So for me, what I realized is that a lot of my because I talked a lot about my parents tonight, but it's because my parents were my first example. You know, like they're my first examples of anything really. And so for me, it was like healing from my childhood trauma is going to heal and does heal your dynamics with other people, because
Yeah.
you end up, you know, I read this great book, which I can't remember the name of it right now, but we got to put it in the link below. But it basically talks about this concept of the imago, which basically is like as an individual, you end up attracting people who remind you of the good and bad traits of your parents in friendships, relationships, whatever the case may be. And then you try to recreate and repair those childhood wounds. And when it comes to the bad traits, so I think about like my ex was very critical in a lot similar ways with my parents. And so it was like I was trying to repair,
Mhm.
right, that
But
childhood
not just
thing.
act like friendships.
Yeah, and the same thing too, because I've attracted some friends who can be hypercritical of me. And for me, it was like, yo, by being honest with myself, right, and like being able to dig deeper from with myself and speaking openly about the fact that, yo, my parents really have hurt me. They did. Like, that's the truth. They did. They did a lot of great things for me, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to the emotional well-being and just how you show love, it was not healthy. It's been very toxic. And so admitting that for me has been super liberating.
Mhm.
Processing it, accepting it for what it is, has been extremely important. And then two, um really like digging deep within myself to say, okay, like asking myself a lot of tough questions, like, yo, like how can I love myself better, and why don't I like these things about myself, right? And where does that come
Wow.
from, and getting to the root of that and being able to tackle that heads on, so that now when I am in relational dynamics, whether it's with friends or like relationships with a partner, I'm not recreating that same cycle. So for me, because I tend to suppress a lot, and something I've done a lot in the past, the last couple of years, I've done the opposite. It's like I opened up the can of worms, and I've been letting out all these emotions and feelings that I suppressed for years and facing them head on. By facing them, it's made my relationships better. It's made them healthier, and also made the relationship I have with myself better. So for me, the question to that was like, I really just had to get vulnerable. I had to get deep. I had to cry about it. I had to be angry about it. And I'm never gonna get like the closure from my parents, because my parents are not that the place where they could have this conversation with me and really truly get where I'm coming from. But I accept that, and I have closure with it. My parents are who they are, but I am who I am, and I don't have to be hostage to my childhood wounds.
Yes. Yes. I'm so happy you said heal. Heal is exactly it. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, you know, you can't always heal what you don't see and what you don't know. So I think like even a step before healing is like, which is, I feel like it's not even a step before. It goes in tandem. Like on the journey and process of healing, like understand what you're healing from. And that might take, like you said, Esther, asking yourself questions. Like, I'm upset. Why? This person said this. This made me feel this way. Why? Or I'm so giving. I'm so giving. Why? What is like kind of break things down a little more, because then you're going to be able to identify what you need to heal from, you know, like sometimes you can heal, but if you don't know what you need to heal from, then it's not really productive to heal from something that you don't even know
Yeah.
what the illness is or what the cause is, you know. So spending some time, like you said, is still like really asking those questions of like, why do I do this? Why does this happen? Like, as like for me, I literally echo 100% of everything that you said. Like the only thing that I would add, and that pertains to me, that I think is also like, you know, worth saying is just like, I struggle a lot with grace with myself. I struggle a lot with my mental state, as in like I have anxiety, and I also think a lot. I'm such an overthinker. I care deeply about people. I care what they think. I care how they impact me. And I think that has disrupted my self-love, because I care so much about all these other things beside me that I'm like, I find myself in a boat constantly like battling with myself versus others kind of thing, or versus the situation or the circumstance. So I think as for me, like one thing that I've been working on is, one, now that I know that, really challenging my mindset. Like I literally call my negative thoughts Nancy. This is what
You
me and
do.
my therapist said that you need to name them, because it's not, you need to talk directly to the thought or to the thing. So I named her Nancy. So if y'all hear me talk about Nancy, that's who it is. But for me, like, it's talking to myself. It's having those conversations with Nancy. Like, you think this, but you don't even, like, that's not the reality. Like, you have no idea if that's even going to happen. You're thinking that people think this way about you, or you're thinking that people, you know, see this, but they probably don't. Like, get out of your head. Like, so, and then if something does come up, have grace with yourself. Okay, you said the wrong thing, you made the wrong choice, but like, did you die? Is it the end of the world? No. So have grace and understanding with yourself. But for me, like, how I try to continue my self-love is through journaling, through prayer, through consistent affirmation, and talking to Nancy like, girl, you're bugging, like, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, or like, you're smart, you're intelligent, like, no, you made the right choice, like, no, they're not thinking that about you. Like, so it's constantly self-talk, it's constantly journaling, it's constantly, I'm a verbal processor, so I always need to process with other people. So that's either verbally processing in prayer, or processing with like Esther, or like any other my other best friends, like being like, oh, I've been thinking this. So, but the first step, like Esther said, is just, you know, understanding what you're trying to heal from, asking yourself those critical questions, like, I feel this way, why? I did this, why? Like, why is it that this is happening? Is there anything I can tie this back to from my childhood or from a recent experience? And then moving forward in that direction, like, okay, now that I know the issue, now that I've dissected it, I thought about it, I asked myself those hard questions,
Yeah.
and I was honest with myself. Now let me do the work of healing and loving and accepting and having grace with myself, and believing that, you know, I am enough. So
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, as we wrap up, I just want to say that it's important to love yourself enough that you forgive yourself.
yes.
Forgive yourself for the times you didn't love yourself. Forgive yourself for the times when you are hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And forgive others who have been critical of you. So actually, you know, can say now, like, I do forgive my parents. Yeah, does it hurt? Absolutely. Has it hurt? absolutely. But I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't go through those experiences. And so that piece is really, really important. And you have to nourish your soul and nourish your body, and um come to a place where you have peace with yourself. And I will say this, it is so much easier to be negative and to think negatively about yourself than it is to think positively. So one of the things I practice is every time I have a negative thought, I follow it up with 3 positive ones.
Yes. Yeah.
I gas myself up all the time in the mirror.
Fake it
Like
till you make it. So you don't have to
absolutely.
fake it. Yep.
And practice saying to yourself, I love you and I am enough. Those 2 simple sentences right there goes a long way for your soul.
Yeah.
Next week we'll talk about, as you embrace your self-love journey, how do you practice that self-care aspect, and we'll get into the details of that. But know that you're not alone. Like, it is a journey and it's okay to struggle with it, but don't give up, and always, always remember that you have to love yourself more than anybody else in this world.
Yeah. And I just want to say also to the listeners, like, you are enough, and like, we love you. And, you know, even if that's what it takes to hear to be the catalyst and the start of your journey, like, I 100% want to be a part of that. So I want you to know that here at the Deep Dive, we love each and every one of you, and that you guys are more than enough. And, you know, take that as like the propeller to this journey. Again, it's not a destination. It takes time. It takes reflection. You might knock back 10 steps and come back up 20. You might go 20 and knock back down 30. Regardless, like, it is a journey, and like, it's consistent and needs to be intentional. And we are very curious to know, like, for other deep divers out there who have taken and committed to that journey of self-love, like, you know, what was your journey like, or what are you doing to commit to your self-love journey? Because we'd love, like, you know, more tips, and just to create a community of, you know, deep divers who are loving on themselves. Like, so please feel free to comment and just let us know, like, how are you committing to this journey? If you're not there yet, like, you know, what are some things that you want to try to do? And how can we even support you? Because we're here for each other with that. So
yeah. Absolutely. And we would love for you to answer just one question for us in the comments, or use it as a conversation starter with your friends as you think about your self-care. Is like, what are you holding on to that isn't serving you?
Yes.
Deep question. I know some of you are like, ooh, but take the time to really process that. And whatever those things are, that rooted back to your self-love journey. And with that, we thank you for listening, as always.
Yes, and we'll see you next week with self-care. Bye. See you later.